Hello, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Lines with Zarina Zabrisky, brought to you by Bywire News, the UK's #1 downloaded news app. Please subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share our show so we can continue to bring more stories to more people. Now, last week was full of events, and we are going to bring you the latest, from the latest on the monarchy in the UK to the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Let's hear from Zarina in Ukraine. Zarina, where are you and why are you there?
Hi, Claudia. Hi, everyone. I'm in Odesa. I'm here because it is my home base in Ukraine. And I have been here since April, actually, ever since I got the accreditation to report on the war. And also, importantly for me, my grandfather was from this town, by the way, and I spent every summer here as a kid. And it does feel like home for me. There is no better place in the world for me again, and I will be giving you short tours and trips in between important news, and we'll share some secrets in the nearest future, in the next episode actually. And that's why behind me you see the famous Odesa Opera Theater, and something is really special happening there right now, and I'm very excited about it. But we will get to hear about it next week because we have a lot of other type of excitement going on right now. So I also want to express my condolences to everyone in the UK, whoever is grieving the passing of the Queen. It is definitely the end of the era, it feels like, Claudia. And people in Ukraine are very aware. Many brought flowers to the UK embassy last week.
Thank you so much, Zarina. I just want to extend those condolences and reiterate that it certainly is the end of an era. Zarina, can we discuss the recent events at the front? Social media is absolutely bursting with the Ukrainian advance.
Oh, yes. And yes, we can. And we are very lucky today, as I got to interview one of my favorite Odesa people, nicknamed Angry Odesite. He's not angry, frankly, Alexander Kovalenko, a military political analyst at Information Resistance, which is a non-governmental Ukrainian project. And this week, he was definitely not angry, but very happy. I think he's one of the leading and the best experts on the subject. Let's hear from Alexander Kovalenko.
Hi, Alexander. Great news this week. I am really looking forward to this interview. First of all, what do you think about the Kharkiv counteroffensive? Can it be sustained? And what are the obstacles that the Ukrainian army might face?
Hi, Zarina. The Kharkiv counteroffensive fully justifies the hopes that placed on it, but it should be understood that it was preceded by a long and thorough preparation. The preparation consists in striking as the targets of the invaders, such as ammunition depots, command posts, as well as the formation of shock assault groups, fully occupied and provided everything necessary for a long march in the offensive. Obviously, in the coming days, the Ukrainian army will completely liberate the Kharkiv region and will be able to enter the Luhansk region. However, in the Luhansk region, the advancement of the armed force of Ukraine will slow down and maybe put on hold. This is due to the fact that the Lugansk region, the Russian occupiers have better equipped defense lines, especially where they have occupied territory since 2014, which means more work for artillery.
What do you think about the advance in the Donetsk direction? Do you think Ukraine can claim back the territories?
In the Donetsk direction, the offensive is already developing, but not as fast as in Kharkov. This is due to the conditions that have been formed in the region over the years during the occupation since 2014. But to be honest, the Donetsk direction is not priority right now. So the concentration of forces where will be solely to deter the offensive or the occupant units. The armed force of Ukraine will focus on other areas of greater strategic importance. For example, south.
What about Kherson counteroffensive, the one that everybody was talking about for so long? Does Ukraine have enough resources for a successful campaign there, in your opinion?
The Kherson direction may seem as successful as the Kharkov one, but it is not. The advance of the Ukrainian army in the Kherson region is complicated by the specific of the landscape in this region. There are large open space, fields, endless fields where any advance is visible for many kilometers and can be suppressed by enemy artillery. Therefore, the actions of the Ukrainian army in the Kherson region are very careful in order to save their personnel as much as possible. On the other hand, the Russians in this area do not have a full-fledged supply of ammunition, fuel, equipment, and armaments. This affects their ability to conduct defense, and they will not be able to keep it for a long time.
What actions do you anticipate from the Russian Federation in these situations? Do you think Russians have any way or chance to rebuild the momentum?
No. The Russians do not have the ability to advance and capture large territories, where offensive resources are depleted. On the other hand, their resources are sufficient to hold territories. Therefore, in the coming months, we will see the Russian army not so much on the offensive, on the defensive.
Well, thank you for this concise and optimistic analysis in that respect. And with that in mind, there is a lot of talk about reclaiming Crimea in 2023. A lot of experts are talking about it now. Do you think it is realistic?
I don't know about the full-fledged return of Crimea in 2023. Will begin in 2023. Yes, I'm sure of it. After all this, by the moment that Ukrainian army will return the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions, and they are the key to the Crimea. Without them, it is impossible to effectively influence the invaders on the peninsula. I see the further development of the situation in the war zone as follows. The army of Ukraine, after the liberation of the Kharkiv region, will be able to partially liberate the Luhansk region. Promotion is possible until the armed forces of Ukraine run into the defensive lines of Luhansk region. It takes time, methodical artillery work, and patterns of breakthrough the lines of defensive. At this time, attention can be focused on our areas, for example, in Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions. The liberation of the Zaporizhzhia regions will open the way for us to the left bank of the Kherson region and to the Crimea. In fact, the battle for Donetsk and Lugansk, as well as Crimea, will be the final chord in the liberation of Ukraine from Russian invaders, and I'm sure it will be happening in 2023.
As the Ukrainian counteroffensive continues, the Russians are sustaining grave losses. About 49,000 Russian soldiers died in the war in Ukraine, according to leaked documents of the Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation. 361 billion rubles were allocated as monetary compensation for the dead soldiers. The losses of the Russian proxy states that call themselves Luhansk People's Republic and Donetsk People's Republic are not taken into account. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, as of September 9th, approximately 51,900 invaders have died in Ukraine. As the defeat of the Russian army becomes more obvious, it becomes harder for the Kremlin-funded mass media to cover it up. On September 11th, Putin launched a Ferris wheel in Moscow as the Russian Federation army was retreating from Kharkiv, Donetsk, and Kherson fronts. While Putin's government maintains silence, the social media channels are panicking. There was a voice of dissent on the TV, with one political analyst, Boris Nadezhdin, criticizing the generals who failed to inform Putin of the real situation. Expressing such an opinion publicly is unheard of in the Russian Federation in 2022. Journalists, activists, and citizens speaking up against the official government policy get steep prison terms. In an unusual move, over the last 2 days, more than 40 local elected officials from Moscow, St. Petersburg, and St. Petersburg's region signed a petition demanding the resignation of Vladimir Putin from the post of president of the Russian Federation. The Telegram channels and other social media, however, show strong support of Putin and demand punishing the generals.
This is fantastic news for Ukraine and the world's democracy. Let's hope that we will continue to hear the news in this vein. You have mentioned before new developments at the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant. Any updates or follow-ups from there?
On September 11th, power unit number 6 of the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant station was disconnected from the power grid, and the station was completely stopped. Oleg Kharkov, the head of the State Atomic Energy Regulatory Authority, said that if the Russian military damage the only working line, the electricity will have to be produced by diesel generators. The diesel supply will only last for 10 days. The blackout can cause the melting of nuclear fuel. The volume of the radioactive products released into the atmosphere would be comparable with Fukushima and Chernobyl. The Russian shelling must be stopped, followed by the deoccupation and demilitarization of the station, adjacent territories, and the city of Enerhodar. On September 12th, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, Director General Rafael Grossi, said that Ukraine and Russia are interested in the IAEA's proposal of establishing a protected zone around the Russian-held Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant. He described it as a ceasefire. Earlier on September 6th, IAEA released a report on the situation at the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant. The U.S. Institute of Study of War called the IAEA's report a coded condemnation of Russian moves that have created and are perpetuating the danger of nuclear disaster in Ukraine. The analysts believe that Russian President Vladimir Putin could seek to use the fears that his actions are causing to coerce the IAEA and the international community into a de facto recognition of Russia's right to be involved in the operation of ZNPP, which he might seek to portray as de facto recognition of Russia's occupation of southern Ukraine. Putin might attempt to create a process similar to the Minsk Accords. That agreement aimed and failed to establish the ceasefire in Ukraine following Russia's 2014 invasion. The Minsk and Minsk II agreements treated Russia as a neutral party rather than a participant, and implied that Ukraine was in civil war rather than the victim of Russian aggression. Putin might seek to use the conditions he has created at the ZNPP to undermine Ukraine's sovereign rights over the Russian-occupied Ukrainian territory. On September 11th through 12th, the Russian army also struck the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians lost power and water.
And yes, Claudia, I spoke to an expert on radioactive safety, the general director of the Radiological Safety Center Chornobyl Ecocenter, who was at the site during the accident in 1986. And he has worked in the Chernobyl area for over 30 years. He knows about nuclear accidents from his own experience. Let's hear from Sergey.
Атомная станция – это достаточно сложный объект, на территории которой находится, кроме самого реактора, еще достаточно всяких коммуникаций, сооружений и так далее. Поэтому нахождение посторонних лиц на территории станции, даже гражданских, запрещено. А тем более военные, когда находятся там. С моей точки зрения, это ядерный терроризм. Это захват радиационно опасного объекта с точки зрения радиационной безопасности и нахождение там военных формирований, которые, мало того, что там производят обстрелы, там, уже это видел весь мир, там стреляли по реактору или там рядом возле реактора, с одной стороны. С другой стороны, постоянное присутствие, это влияет на персонал. То есть люди находятся под прессом. С достаточной долей вероятности могут совершить какую-то ошибку, которая приведет к ядерному или радиационному инциденту. Другой оценки вряд ли может быть.
Каков еще риск полного обесточения станции?
Это этот же риск, который может привести к, например, по фукусимскому сценарию, аварию на каком-нибудь энергоблоке. Мы живем в 21 веке, имея такие технологии, и тут кто-то вламывается на закрытую территорию, где только находится персонал, который обучен правилам РБ, правилам поведения, постоянно там проходят какие-то там тренировки и так далее, и так далее. То есть главная задача персонала атомной станции – это безопасная эксплуатация реактора. Как же можно его безопасно эксплуатировать, когда там находятся военные?
Но еще также есть риск, помимо человеческого фактора, это нахождение радиоактивных отработанных отходов на территории.
На любой станции находятся радиоактивные отходы, которые там готовятся для передачи, специализированные предприятия и так далее. Атомная станция без радиоактивных отходов работать не может. Есть там временные хранилища, есть производственные мощности, которые там перерабатывают эти отходы, там компактируют, кондиционируют, там куда-то складывают для того, чтобы потом передать на специализированные предприятия. Там для дальнейшей переработки или для хранения, или для захоронения.
И именно поэтому нельзя обесточить станцию, потому что в случае полного обесточения будет угроза того, что эти радиоактивные отходы перегреют.
Если мы говорим о хранилищах, которые требуют, например, отработавшее ядерное топливо, оно находится там на специальной площадке или хранилище, но его необходимо охлаждать для того, чтобы оно там не перегревалось. Должен работать полный цикл. Безопасного обращения не только с реактором, но и с отходами.
Думаете ли вы, что в планы российских оккупационных властей или правительства может входить переключение ЗАЭС, Запорожской станции, на систему энергоснабжения российскую, на Крым в частности?
Наверное, есть такая задача переключения. Смогут ли они? То другой вопрос, смогут ли они это сделать.
А почему? По техническим причинам это будет трудно?
По техническим причинам трудно. Наверное, есть там какие-то распределительные устройства, которые или выведены из строя, или будут выведены из строя для того, чтобы это невозможно было осуществить.
А мне прокомментировали в одном из интервью, что в настоящий момент украинская и российская системы энергоснабжения работают на разных частотах, и что по этой причине это будет сложно сделать.
Это тоже причина, потому что мы буквально перед этим военными действиями Украина переключилась на европейскую систему. Они отличаются. С точки зрения РБ это вообще недопустимо.
Какие бы у вас могли быть рекомендации или пожелания, или, может быть, просьба к мировому сообществу?
МАГАТЭ или какие-то организации, они должны демилитаризировать Запорожскую станцию, то есть вывести оттуда военные. ввести туда, если нужно, каких-то наблюдателей.
Zarina, I must say, this is very alarming. It is the largest nuclear power plant in Europe we are talking about, but we have already heard about some careless behavior at the nuclear power plants from you. Did you get any follow-ups on the Russian military digging trenches in the contaminated forest in Chernobyl? Was it a fact or a legend?
I'm so glad that we have a chance to follow up, Claudia. It is really important. And we did get an exclusive investigation into this matter, especially for Bywire News. I got to speak to the General Director of the Radiological Safety Center at Chernobyl, Sergey Kireev, who spoke to us about the Zaporizhzhia station situation, and also his colleagues, and they confirmed, indeed, that the Russian military built fortification and made trenches in the Red Forest. Let's hear them out.
Я Киреев Сергей, генеральный директор государственного специализированного предприятия «Экоцентр». Одна из задач «Экоцентра» – это радиационная безопасность в зоне отчуждения. Если мы говорим о присутствии здесь российских оккупантов, то в это время недалеко от пункта временной локализации радиоактивных отходов «Рыжий лес» были вырыты окопы. Похоже, что военнослужащие российской армии там жили, потому что после деоккупации, когда мы приехали на это место смотреть, то мы видели разбросанные пакеты продовольственные, были какие-то вырытые окопы, были вырыты какие-то сооружения, или похожие на сооружения, в одном из загрязненных, достаточно загрязненных мест зоны отчуждения. Похоже, что никаких правил поведения на радиационно загрязненной территории выполнено не было. По разным сведениям, 2 недели или неделю они там находились постоянно. С точки зрения загрязнения, это одно из таких непростых по загрязнению мест зоны отчуждения в районе западного следа и, как я говорил, в районе пункта временной локализации радиоактивных отходов. Место это было перекопано, а характер загрязнения этой территории, кроме цезия, стронция, там достаточное количество изотопов плутония и трансуранов. Не соблюдая правила радиационной безопасности на загрязненной территории, большая вероятность, что часть этих нуклидов они могли попасть вовнутрь организма. Какие были сформированы дозы, сейчас сложно сказать, потому что это нужно понимать, какие действия они там выполняли. Во время их пребывания на этой территории был пожар. Если сравнивать места их дислокации и карты с космоса в этот период со спутников НАСА, то они достаточно четко совпадают. То есть в местах пребывания находились и очаги пожара. Особенно это видно на фотографиях в апреле месяце, когда еще зеленой травы не было. То есть дополнительная еще доза могла для этих военнослужащих сформироваться за счет вдыхания радиоактивно загрязненного дыма. Трудно сейчас говорить о последствиях для здоровья, но то, что они будут, это однозначно. Дополнительная доза, кроме вдыхания дыма от пожара, еще и могла произойти за счет копания этих окопов.
The exclusion zone is a contaminated territory around the Chornobyl Nuclear Power Plant. After the 1986 disaster, a significant amount of radionuclides was released into the environment. 35 years after the Chernobyl disaster, the exclusion zone remains an open source of radioactivity and is still considered dangerous. After a large number of Russian heavy military equipment moved into the exclusion zone on February 24, 2022, the indicators of gamma radiation recorded by the automated radiation control system exceeded the norm. However, the monitoring system stopped working after the Russian troops looted the main office of the eco-center, so not all changes were recorded. The increase in the recorded indicators was likely associated with the rise of contaminated radioactive dust in the air caused by the movement of Russian heavy military equipment. This, by itself, wouldn't be a problem because the dust settles in the first days after the incident, and the radiation level of the environment lasts up to 14 days under favorable meteorological conditions. However, the Russian military dug trenches in the Red Forest, called the Area of the Temporary Radioactive Waste Localization Point. In simple terms, one of the spots with the highest radioactive contamination. Take a look at the soil pollution density map. The white dot marks the Russian trench's location. In April, the state authorities, scientists, and the mass media visited the site and confirmed that the Russian military's positions were located in close proximity to the Red Forest. The analysis showed that the integrity of the upper layer of the contaminated soil within a 10-kilometer zone was violated, likely changing the dynamics of the radionuclide migration in the exclusion zone, and a partial increase in the parameters of PED gamma radiation was recorded. The research is ongoing, and the results are not final.
Копали в режиме сойки, там окопы и остались, никто же не спал. Дело в том, что они ставили свои блокпосты или просто посты, или как-то прикрывались на тех участках, где там, дороги идут в разные стороны, и там, как про них приказ просто дали, они взяли, выкопали, там же этими дровами пользовались, там же и спали, там и все, и получили дозы. И заходили на объекты, как нам, где у нас источники хранятся, которые мы используем для калибровки оборудования. И они их тоже позабирали себе, они красивые, блестящие, такие блюдечки, тарелочки, там всякие источнички. Вот они тоже часть их с собой взяли и в карманчик положили. Ну, их везут себе. Когда они рыли окопы, ездили на своей бронетехнике, да, то на тех участках шпынулось. Но дело в том, что в тот момент, когда они были, у нас воздушные, то есть аэрозольные фильтры, они были выключены, то есть они не прокачивали воздух, потому что не было электроэнергии. Ни здесь не было электроэнергии, ни в зоне не было электроэнергии. Если бы мы снимали, тогда, я думаю, там активность была большая.
I must say, I really loved the fox from the last episode. Too bad we couldn't interview the fox. I'm sure he has stories to tell.
You are so right about it. Apparently, it's not some anonymous fox. He's very well known. My Ukrainian friends told me that his name is Simeon, and he used to make frequent appearances on the road when the tourists were still around before the war. They used to come by buses in the alienation zone. And there are also Przevalsky horses there. We didn't get to see them or interview them. But there are a lot of endangered species, and Przevalsky horses is one of them. They were brought to Chernobyl from Mongolia as an experiment, and they have no natural predators there as they successfully push back the wolves' attacks. They have a special strategy, Claudia. They stand in a circle, I hear, with the youngsters in the middle, and the adults, females and males, they stand on guard, and they can smash a wolf's skull with one hit of a hoof. So as you can see, strategy is everything.
Let's hope to hear more about good strategies next week. I am very much looking forward to learning more about Odesa. Did you say to go to the opera theatre? Is it the opera theatre with a bomb shelter that you wrote about for Bywire News?
Yes, it is. It is the one right behind me, as you can see. And next week, we're going to visit inside. I promise to bring you behind the curtain for an exclusive peek next week. And come watch us next week. Subscribe, like, share, and help us bring facts and fun to you from Ukraine as it's starting to rain on me here in beautiful Odesa. I bid goodbye to you and see you next week.
All right, time to say bye, Zarina. See you next time.